Welcome to Care Sandwich, the podcast where we dive into the success journeys of law firm owners across the country. I'm Margarita Everline, your host and the founder of Marketing Boss, a fractional chief marketing officer firm for law firms. On this show, we'll explore the challenges, strategies, and victories that have shaped law firms and how they wrap every interaction with care. Because we believe that caring isn't just a value, it's a strategy for success. So grab your favorite sandwich, sit back, and let's dig into a conversation filled with insight, inspiration, and of course, a lot of care. I have the amazing privilege of interviewing Matt Mishak today, and he is described as a natural-born problem solver by his clients. He's got over 15 years of experience, and after graduating summa cum laude, excuse me, we've got a genius in the house, in the top 10% of his class at Cleveland Marshall College of Law in 2006. He served as an assistant Lorain County prosecutor for 6 years before becoming the chief prosecutor for the city of Elyria. Is that how you pronounce that?
Nice word.
And now he runs a law firm and helps people every single day. Matt, tell our audience about yourself and the awesome work that you're doing at your firm.
Yeah, we are primarily a domestic relations and a criminal defense firm. We have 3 attorneys, and we're primarily in the Cleveland area.
That is awesome. And so with all these multiple practice areas, I'm curious, Matt, where do you find time to get a good sandwich?
It's rough, but we're working on that. I'm not a big lunch person. You get that food coma, but yeah. I did manage to take off every Friday this summer, so I was grabbing sandwiches then. So
that is awesome. So let's talk about that, because caring for your clients starts with caring for yourself. And I'm going to have a little moment of confession here. I am not a breakfast eater. And most days I do not have lunch until like in an ungodly, like late hour, because much like you, I feel like it makes me unproductive. Is that what happens to you?
No, I think that's probably terrible, is what people would say, right? You don't finish work until late, and you have this meal, and then you sleep on this rock, and then you're probably, I don't know, you probably need some habit improvements like I do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But you know what I find? I find that I'm not alone. I find that I have that in common with a lot of my attorney clients. We're just very go.
With me, yeah, with me too. Yeah, it's rough to find the time for sure.
Yeah. So when you do get to have a sandwich, what's your favorite sandwich?
I like I like a Monte Cristo, although I probably shouldn't eat those.
That's so delicious. So much butter.
Yeah, I like a patty melt too. You know, like on a rye but wow, I didn't know we'd be talking about sandwiches. I would have prepared.
I told you it would be fun. You know, my brain is a circus. Okay. Let's talk about serious matters now. Okay, so we're so busy and we need better health habits because you've got a lot going on. So walk us through the different legal practice areas that you manage, and how did you decide on these specific areas? How did you decide that you were the person, your firm was the firm to help people with these specific areas? Because it's an interesting combination. So walk us through that. How did you make those decisions?
Yeah, well, from the criminal law aspect of it, I mean, obviously, I was a former prosecutor, so I've been practicing, criminal law for a long time. I don't know, probably handled tens of thousands of criminal cases at this point. I actually got started in domestic relations because I had worked as a criminal attorney with a lot of victims of crime, and they had some, a lot of times people would have issues with getting protection orders. They were in relationships that were domestic violence relationships, and I started doing that because I was used to working with individuals that were victims of crime, and that kind of spread over to my family law practice.
That's an amazing story. What can you think of one case or one something that you're like, I got to get into this other area of the law, like I've got to help these people? Walk us through that. Is it just a combination?
Well, you said you want to keep it light, and I'm probably going to ruin that right now. So, I was a government attorney for a lot of my career, and what actually happened to me is I was fired from my job in a very public way. I was actually accused of theft in office, and that was a really low time for me. I didn't have any money. I couldn't get an interview. There's a big question mark over my head. I remember
Yeah.
I couldn't really afford my mortgage payment. I didn't have health insurance, and I remember I had to borrow $300 from my parents to buy a desk for myself. Um,
Wow.
but the long story short was that it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me, quite honestly, because uh,
Mm.
what happened is I was eventually cleared of everything, and there's a Supreme Court investigation, and the prosecutor's office, the state auditor's office. It was my former boss that had accused me of this, and I eventually won a lawsuit against them and cleared my name. But during that time, I had to rely on an attorney. I had a defamation case. I knew what it was to put my
Mm.
life in somebody's hands. I wanted to, you want to make sure that the attorney has the legal prowess to handle the case. You want to make sure that the attorney cares about you. Really cares about your family and your life and what happens to you, right? Because they can be the best attorney in
Yeah.
the world. They don't care about you. That's a problem. But I did finally
Mm.
choose an attorney, and he did come through for me, and he did believe in my case, and I knew what it was like to be in that situation where you had to depend on somebody. So that helped me
Mm.
relate to my clients. It helped me genuinely care about my clients because when I look at my clients and they're in this dark place, I see me. I know what they're going through, and I know that if I can get their trust and be able to have them believe that we're dotting the i's and crossing the t's in the practice and taking care of them from a legal standpoint, that we're caring for them,
Yeah.
that they will be able to go home to their families, go to their jobs, and they're going to be able to take that little chunk of worry and leave it on my desk. And I've come to realize over time that if you can do that, it really results
It's a big
in,
chunk of worry.
of course, I mean, if you can trust that your lawyer is doing what needs to be done to protect you, you can leave that on your lawyer's desk and go on with your life. And this has ripples, right? Because if people are upset, they're yelling at their kids, they're getting in trouble at work, they're going out and they're drinking,
Mm.
they're engaging in all these harmful, bad behaviors. So, as far as caring for the clients, I do care for my clients, and I see as an opportunity that if we do good legal work and that we're taking care of business, that we have an opportunity to do good in the world and ease human suffering and make these families feel better and their kids feel better and have them, flourish in what they're trying to do outside of their legal concerns.
So what I'm hearing is these experiences that were very painful that you had unlocked a certain level of empathy for your clients. That's amazing. And not a lot of people can take things that way. Like some people get stuck and stay angry. So it's really impressive that you were able to flip that around and turn that into a method or a skill to connect with your clients. I can hear the passion in your voice. I can see it in your body. I think it's awesome. It's one of the reasons why I thought about you because care sandwich. I know it's kind of fun and sandwich and all that, but it's really about so many law firms around the country advertise, we care, we fight for our clients, we are going to get you what you deserve. And a lot of them fall short because it's almost like it's just something they say. Matt, walk us through, and you kind of already did, but walk us through how you continue to stay connected with the community so that you can maintain that authenticity. Not that you have to, because like what you went through, I feel like it marked you so deeply, but how do you continue to stay in touch with that? Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I'm a childhood domestic violence survivor, and there are days where people ask me about that, and I honestly don't even remember what that was like because my life is so good. I have amazing kids, I have healthy relationships, I have a parenting coach. Like, these are things that in my world didn't even exist. And so it's almost like the trauma helped me have a certain level of empathy, but I find that the better my life gets, sometimes I lose it a little bit, if I could say it that way. And I know that community involvement is an important piece of how you run your practice. So talk to us about how that helps you just not stay in touch with the pain that you felt, but just stay in touch with the people that you're working with.
Yeah, so I'm involved a lot with the schools around here, and I donate to the schools, and I'm part of that. I have I have a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old, so I'm involved with a lot of the parents in the area. But in addition to my clients, I do a lot of consults that maybe I'm able to help with problems without even really having the client retain me. Sometimes I'm able to solve their problem within a consult, and that's one of the ways that I think that it's a very honest process. So I know some attorneys will be trying to maybe sell the client on their services during the consult. What I do is obviously we do a lot of advertising to have that client in front of us in the first place, and I think it's about relationships, and I don't really feel comfortable entering into a relationship with anybody without being my honest self. I'm not trying to close them on any business. They get the time with me. We do paid consults. I'll be honest about that. When they come in for the paid consult, they're not going to get a pitch with me. They're reduced price for our normal hourly. Everyone has some skin in the game in our consults, but I work with the client and I try to solve their problem. If I'll give them the honest advice. They get me for that hour, and they get me in the problem solving mode in that hour. Sometimes that leads to clientele for us. Sometimes it allows us to solve the problem right there. I do work with legal aid. We have done clinics. I've taken my whole law firm to the legal aid clinic. I think it's a really good exercise to forget about money, forget about billable hours, forget about closing the business. Just go
Right.
out there and apply your skills and try to help somebody in need. And I was talking to a friend of mine about. He said how much do attorneys make or whatever. You could make better money in sales, and you could be a car salesman and make better money. I don't know if that's the case, but I really think about these two roles and I've done sales, I've been a salesman myself, but I think that, lawyers have a unique ability to, take their skills and really make a difference in the world. And I think that's a really powerful thing. I think it's good. I think in a lot of ways, being a lawyer is a very different job than, being in sales. I mean, it's just a very different experience. And I know that's a meandering example, but if you have somebody that has a problem and they're so overwhelmed by it, someone's harassing them, something like that, you can't go over there and take a gun and deal with the problem. That's not the right way to handle it. And sometimes you can't throw money at it. Maybe you want to help money, give money. Sometimes only a lawyer can help, and it's those problems and those people that we usually get in our law firm. And I think it's very rewarding to be able to work that out. People come to us with the most complicated problems in their life, and be able to take that away and give them some peace of mind. I think it's a very good thing, and that's what they pay us for. That's what they value us for, and that's how I kind of form that relationship with the community.
Hey there, I hope you're enjoying the conversation and your sandwich as much as we are. I want to take a moment to share a few words about our sponsor, Marketing Boss. If you're a law firm owner looking to supercharge your growth, our team at Marketing Boss is here to help. We've got over a decade of experience and a proven track record, and we specialize in growing law firms like yours with data-driven marketing leadership. So if you own a law firm and you're ready to get a predictable, steady flow of cases from your marketing, let's connect at marketing-boss.com.
I get really excited about, especially the clients that I end up working with. They're very much, I'm very compatible. Our firm is very compatible with mission-driven attorneys that care, attorneys that have, ethics, and, not that they don't, but what I'm saying, where it's a priority to maintain the human connection. And I get excited about that. And I think about, for example, in the personal injury space, the Hispanic construction worker that cracks his head open, like who can help him? Nobody can help him except that one attorney that, also can connect with him and can relate and can fight for him. So, and in your case, domestic violence, I'm sure, is a theme that comes up, and, those domestic disputes and, crim overlap. Walk us through some of that. What is that like? What is that work like for you? And maybe share a story or a couple of examples of the types of people that you help.
Yeah, I guess one thing I could talk about, since you mentioned those areas, is we get what I call the trifecta cases sometimes. So it's kind of amazing sometimes the lengths that people will go to when they're in a legal battle. They may lie, they may make up fabrications, and you get some clients that are in bad situations once in a while. I had one particular individual where he was involved in a divorce that led to, in Ohio, what's called a protection order. In some states, they're called domestic violence restraining orders. But basically, you can't come around the other person, and then there's allegations that was violated, and then you end up with a criminal case. So you have a case where you're going through a divorce. There's a civil protection order case or a domestic violence temporary restraining order case, and then you get this third criminal case all together. And it's such a financial strain. It takes a while to get through those allegations and defend that client. But in this particular case, we were able to get rid of the criminal charges, have the civil protection order dismissed, and we were able to get him a very good result in his divorce, despite all the toxicity of opposing counsel and really his former spouse. And he was in a bad way, and we got him through it, and he's still one of our biggest supporters to this day.
Wow. I can imagine how stressful that can be, because I've been through a divorce myself, and I remember reading a book called Conscious Uncoupling or something like that. And the book taught about how when you're going through a separation like that, or a life change like that, or a break in a relationship, people almost become irrational. So when you're the attorney for the person that's got somebody coming at them, you almost have to be kind of like a therapist a little bit. Not that that's your role, but it's like, how do you help them process the legal aspects, their options, when I bet they can barely even articulate like what's happening, right?
Absolutely. I think, maybe you heard of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If you don't have air, there's not much else you're thinking about that's not important, right? You're not worrying about your tax return if you don't have air, right? You don't have food, you're not warm, you're not comfortable. So it's all on this spectrum. And when people are worrying about, hey, is my livelihood going to be protected? Am I going to have enough to survive? How am I going to get through? Am I going to see my kids? What's going to happen to the most important people in my world, my children? What's going to happen with them? Of course, they're very worried about that. And I tell my clients a lot of times that you're in a rut. You're in a rut. It's a dark, scary place, and there's not a lot of light down there. And one thing is, in a rut, you can't see the future. You can't see outside of the rut. And usually, when I tell my clients this, they say, I appreciate the sentiment, man. I appreciate the positive encouragement, but I think you're just kind of blowing sunshine my way. Maybe things don't get better for me. But then I tell them about the 10 clients that came to me and said, hey, remember you told me that rut story? You were right. You're right. I did. There was a brighter future. In fact, I should have got out of that relationship a lot sooner. So I think that one of the tasks I have is to explain the landscape in which they find themselves. I always ask my clients, hey, you ever step on a Lego? And they're like, oh man, it's Lego. Yeah, in the middle of the night, ouch, it hurts. Bare feet step on a Lego, they're sharp. And I said, well, you're kind of like walking around your house at night and you don't know where the Legos are. So I'm going to turn on the light. I'm going to show you the map of where we're going, what the divorce process is, how it all fits together. I'm going to answer your questions and make you, feel better about it. And, we just met each other for a short time. It's an hour, but you'll learn in time that, we're available to you. We're going to answer the phone. You can talk to me. You can talk to me. I need 15 minutes. I need 20 minutes. they're going to answer the phone. The people that we have answer the phone, their heart is in it. They care about doing this. This isn't for everyone. It's a lot of people stressed out. It's a lot of stress and drama for people, and people call in and sometimes they're yelling and screaming and they're upset. We have to calm them down and remind them of the rules of engagement. I don't want the clients are important, but the team's important. When you're calling in, I don't want somebody not to want to come to work here because somebody's yelling at them. So we give a reset, we do that, and I say, look, in a little bit of time, you're going to realize that I'm not some silver-tongued devil, that we practice what we preach, and you're gonna find out that all the good reviews that you've read online, which I think is a great process, by the way, getting online reviews, people really trust those and can learn about you, that you're going to see that they're comfortable. And I think that establishing that type of relationship with your client is the greatest thing ever, because they're not worrying about that you're in collusion with the other opposing counsel. They're not worried that you're selling them down the river. They're not worried that it's all about the money, that you have that trust with them. They know you're fighting for them, and they're calling in less. They're worried less. They expect the normal updates. It just pays so many dividends. And we haven't always done that well. We're doing a lot better with it now.
So I'm going to extract a tip that I heard from what you said, and you let me know if I got it. A simple thing that attorneys can do to show their clients that they care and help them diffuse the emotional charge so that they can focus on actually solving the problem is to remind them that this is just a bump, and help them gain perspective without minimizing what they're feeling, but just giving them that perspective, but also following it up with actual case studies. To me, that was the key from what you said. Because if you tell me, hey, Margarita, you're drowning in a glass of water, that email that you got from, your ex-husband about taking your kids may feel like it's the end of the world, but let's take a step back and look at the way the legal process works. And let me tell you, there was another mom that was also the primary breadwinner that had a similar situation. I got her through it. I'm going to get you through it. Did I get that right?
I think that you probably said it more articulately than I did, but yes, I think you got that right. Is that if you could use examples of other clients who have got through it, everyone, when they come to us, it seems like this is their whole world. This moment in time is so huge. It's the whole universe. But if you kind of zoom out, you say, hey, look, there's a road ahead. There's a better avenue ahead, and this is an example of how it's happened before, with another client that was right in my office doubting that this was going to be a positive future for them, and they got there. I think it gives them hope, and that hope carries them through.
Well, Matt, you're such a wonderful person. I've really enjoyed this interview, and I think that you have created a firm culture that really replicates that vibe of care. So if somebody is listening to this, or another attorney has maybe a case, how do they refer to you? How do they get in touch with you and your firm? What is the best way to connect with you? Is it to call you, go to your website? Give us different ways that people can get in touch with you if they're like, you know what, that Matt guy, he's awesome. I want to work with him and his firm.
So you can visit us at mishaklaw.com. We're also it's mishaklaw.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. You can kind of learn about us there. You can call us 440-678-0000. It's 440-678-0000. And happy to talk to any clients. Also, if any other attorneys are struggling in their business, I love those discussions. I love business, figuring out how to better serve the client, bring value, get value. All of those discussions, as I've had with you in the past, you're fantastic, and I appreciate knowing you. We met at Tech Show in Chicago, but if anyone wants to reach out, I'm willing to have those conversations too. I always love networking that way. And thanks for having me on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Care Sandwich. Remember, the way we care for our clients, our teams, and ourselves can make all the difference in our success. Until next time, keep caring, keep growing, and I'll see you on the next episode of Care Sandwich.